everybody. Welcome to the 6th episode of the AISTS Alumni Talks. Today, we're going to be talking about building a career in sport. To remind everybody of the format, we're going to have a 45-minute panel discussion followed by 15 minutes of Q&A with our live audience here. For the audience, if you do have a question, please hit the raise hand icon on your screen. When the time comes, we will ask you to turn your cameras and microphones on and address the panel for your question based on the order that those hands get raised. You can also ask a question in the chat, but if I'm being honest, we'd rather see your face and get to engage with you. So please use the raise hand icon if you are able to. I'd like to remind everybody that this is being recorded, and like all the previous episodes, this will be shared on the AISTS YouTube channel and LinkedIn and other channels. So please, keep the questions appropriate. I'd rather not have to edit anything out. So so please remember that it is being recorded. Claudio, if you wouldn't mind taking over and introducing our guests.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Hello, everybody. So thank you, first of all, to our three stellar guests tonight. Let's start with Celine. Celine, for those who are familiar with AISTS, Celine Beaurain-Casemi, she's a career coach. She's advising very, very important institutions, AISTS being one of them. Thank you, Celine, for joining. So from Celine, obviously, important tips and advices about how to build a career in sports. What's this tonight topic? Then Ben Cohen, 2008 AISTS. Today, Ben is General Director of the International Testing Agency. He's been covering roles at different institutions, basketball Federation, International Basketball Federation, and so on, UEFA as well. Thank you, Ben. Also, Ben, of course, will be able to give from the European probably perspective, but not only tips how to successfully build a career in sport. And on the other side of the ocean, Mark Talarico. Thank you, Mark, to be with us. Mark is not an AISTS alumni, but happy to have also to have guests who are not part of the AISTS network. Today, Mark Talarico is the Vice President Sales of PUMA, North America, Sales Athletic, been covering different roles in US and Canada in brand management, sales, and team development. Thank you to all of you. So today we will try to give tips, to give information, advices how to really be successful in providing, successfully putting together a sports career. First question, probably the most actual, considering the situation. What do you see? Most of all, what do you see in the next year with actually approaching in sports? How the changes will happen vis-a-vis what happened in 2020, how the COVID impact will be in the next year, according to your opinion. I will start with Celine, if she's fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Claudio. So looking at 2021, what I've heard and what I see is some growing opportunities in all the field of digital, broadly speaking, because there's more and more events, and also in terms of engaging with the fan, it's going through digital channels. So there would be some continuing to have some opportunities in that field. Also, I've seen that in lots of the international federation, many of them are very heavily communicating, and that will please Benjamin, about the anti-doping education. So it seems that a lot of them are working hard on that, and have been working, actually also have used this kind of more calm year of 2020 in terms of events to work on this anti-doping topic and on the education related to anti-doping. So this could be areas where there will be opportunities. And then also with, of course, the Tokyo 2020 now being confirmed for next year, there should be again some opportunities on the events operation side.
Thank you. Ben, you want to give us your opinion on this upcoming year? Please, only good news we take.
Well, there's not too many good news in anti-doping, that's for sure. But well, no, I think one of the good news from what I hear is that the Tokyo Games will be held, and I think that's a good news for all of us in the sports world. So if that indeed takes place, I think it's going to be a real sign of relief for the Olympic movement and all the international federations who also survived thanks to the Olympic funding, and that's valid as well for the national Olympic committees and the athletes, etc. So it's going to be a year full of opportunities. Also, I believe very difficult in a financial context, but if the events pick up, I think, as Celine said, there is now also a clear shift towards anything digital, but also, and that's also what I see from my side in anti-doping, everything related to machine learning, artificial intelligence, digital identity. There's a lot of work for people unlike me that understand computers, and so that should be fun for all of them. And as Celine also highlighted, there is also a clear shift towards integrity matters. I think we all realize more and more in international federations as well that the integrity side of it is now more than ever very important. And so good governance, integrity, all the things that we've seen with sexual abuse, harassment, discrimination, I think it's taking the front page. And so there's going to be a clear focus on that, I believe, in the coming months and years.
Thank you, Ben. Mark, what's your take in the American world, let's say?
Well, in North America, we've been learning a lot about ourselves in the industry and what's going on with how people are living and coping day to day. And what in my industry, what we're seeing is how much people love sport. We miss sport. We miss all going to the games. We miss playing the games. We miss being at the arenas. We miss being on the pitch. We miss being on the court. So we're seeing 21 as Ben was just talking about and Celine was just talking about. You have the Summer Olympics coming in 2021. So we're pretty optimistic that as the vaccine starts to get out there and starts getting implemented throughout the world, and people start to get back to being more active and getting back outside and getting back to playing sports and being involved in sports, we're seeing the back half of 21 being a very, very positive year for our industry. We've actually seen the past 6-7 months, once we've got past I'll say July 1st, business really started to open up. People started to go back out to running and hiking and biking and cycling and tennis, a lot of individual sports, and especially in the golf world. So we saw a lot of activity. There's a lot of pent-up demand, a lot of pent-up energy to get back to being involved in sports 7 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. So we're looking forward to getting back to a pretty robust 2021 as soon as possible.
Great, Mark, and I'm going to keep it with you. We just talked about 2021, but I'm going to rewind this one way back since we're talking about building a career in sports. I apologize, not that long ago. But
are you saying I'm old?
Not that long ago. But yeah, we'll take it back to, it looks like 1983 when you started at Nike as a regional sales associate. I'd love to know what drew you to that career, and then how you got your foot in the door at a brand like Nike.
Well, I'll even go further back because to me, it's a fascinating story because it's been my career for 37 years, give or take a little. But back in 1975, so I'm going to go back even a little bit earlier. So there was a gentleman who lived not too far from where my parents lived, was the 6th person ever hired in sales at Nike by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And lo and behold, I was in high school and I used to cut his lawn and shovel his driveway and used to babysit his kids and rake leaves. And I just was like the jack of all trades for this gentleman. Hadn't seen him. I went off to college, hadn't seen him in 3-4 years. And out of the blue, he called me and he said, "Hey, I need to hire somebody to work for Nike. And you know what? I'm giving you a call because I know you always work hard. You always shovel my driveway. And every time you cut the lawn, it looks perfect." So he called me, flew me out to Nike back in April of 1983. And when I showed up to interview at Nike, they thought I was there to sell them like a fax machine or something, because I probably looked like I was 15 years old at the time. And met with the Nike officials back then, had 2 days worth of conversations, and lo and behold, they made a big mistake and they hired me. So go figure. But it goes back to cutting lawns and raking leaves. So
that's great, and it actually it leads well into another question that I was going to ask that I think Celine and Ben will be able to comment on as well. Clearly, that was your whether you knew it or not, your ability as a networker that got you your start in the industry, and I'm sure has been valuable throughout your career. I'd love to know, in your opinion, how valuable is that networking ability and building that solid network in the industry?
Yeah, Peter, the networking was critical, right? Knowing the people who are connected, but probably the most important piece was the person who you were networking with liked you, trusted you, saw you were dedicated, saw you were committed, saw you worked hard, saw you did a good job. Because whenever you want to bring someone into your organization or you're building your career, the most important thing on your business card isn't the logo on your jersey, it's your name on the business card. What do you bring? And at that time, being young, I was bringing dependability, reliability, hard work, and that's what he was looking for. So that's always been the bedrock of whatever I've done since 1983 through today. And that's what I look for in new people joining, whether it's PUMA, ASICS, or Nike. So,
right. And Ben, would you mind speaking to the value of networking throughout your career?
Oh, that's you know, I think and it's interesting because we're somehow at an AISTS event, and I think AISTS is bringing just that, is you know, putting you in the middle of the Olympic movement and giving you an opportunity to connect with a lot of organizations where you've been dreaming of working. So that's somehow, I think, the value of being in Lausanne. I was born and raised in Lausanne, and my story is definitely not as inspiring as Mark's, but I was somehow fortunate that, you know, my primary school was in the park of the Olympic Museum. And, you know, in many schools, when you grow up, you have your national flag, and my flag was the Olympic flag. I was, you know, going to school and the flag I could see was the Olympic flag. And so it's been driving my entire life, and somehow being in Lausanne is offering that opportunity. You see all those organizations around you, and then it's really what you make of the people you meet. And I think being true to yourself, being honest, I think it pays off. You know, trying to be too aggressive and really network, that's something that I was never really too good at. I think if you're just being yourself and you meet the people and you're honest and open, it comes naturally.
And Celine, you advise students and even executive level professionals on building their career and developing their career. What is your advice on the topic of networking and the importance of it in building that career?
Well, I think that Mark's story is exactly shows the value of the ability to build relationship, and to build relationship in a very genuine way, because that's what's going to make a huge difference. So that's what because a lot of people, when you advise them on career transitioning or building career, a lot of them associate networking with something negative, and also sometimes they feel that they have to be pushy in networking, and that's where I kind of help them to kind of see networking as a different way and more position it as building a relationship, because I think that's really what it is about. Building the relationship, as Mark was also saying and Ben was saying, is be true to yourself, be hardworking. I mean, if you decide to volunteer, which is a really good way to enter into the sports industry, then take it seriously, deliver a good job, do it with a big smile, help with everything that you can do, wrap up your sleeve, roll up your sleeves, and do those things, because that's what will land you potentially also later some opportunities that you would not even have suspected. I mean, we had one of our participants a few years ago that was volunteering at an event, at a football match in London. He was in the VIP area serving the guest, and then gets a conversation going with one of the VIP guests. And then the VIP guest asks him, okay, what are you up to? What are you doing? Conversation gets on. He offers the AISTS participants to come and meet them at the office later. And guess what? Then he got a job at BBC. He was not there to get the job at BBC. He was doing his job, passionate about football, doing his VIP volunteering work, and he ended up getting this job. So being present in the moment, if you volunteer, do it genuinely, do good work, do it with a smile. So I think that it really just confirms what Mark and Benjamin are saying.
What I want to go back to this, Celine. I start again with you, and I want to try. I'm playing the bad guy, and I know, because I mean the workforce entering AISTS course and many other courses is every year increasing, no? And the limited capacity of sports world is what it is. I mean, there is not infinite, of course. I mean, what is the attributes you would suggest to for those who want to really enter the workforce and starting with the course? There's no guarantee that will happen. We all know, and at the end can be a huge deception. It happened to all of us. I mean, some of us had the luck to enter the sports, and some didn't. What does make really the difference in your opinion, and afterwards also Ben and Mark, in luck, of course, is one actor, but let's luck aside. But what's really makes a difference in your opinion to make it or not make it?
Do I have the secret recipe? I wish I had. But what I would say that I've observed in the people that have been successful in making it, in entering this, as you said, is through very competitive market, which I didn't realize it was so competitive before I started to work with AISTS. But what I can say that when I look at these people that have succeeded, one common aspect is that a lot of them have been very flexible and open-minded. So, for example, doing a lot of volunteering work has been opening a lot of doors to some people. The other thing is being proactive, meaning you identify your targets, you look at your targets, you understand their challenges, their ambitions, where they want to go. Then you reflect, you think back about what are your strengths, what are your skills, what is your experience, and what in your experience or skills could be helpful to your targets. And then you contact back this company or this organization, you ask for a conversation to exchange some ideas, propose a pitch, and then I've seen some people getting some offers of mandates or jobs out of that. So that's another way of also making it. So one is being open, flexible in terms of either volunteering or also in terms of pay and level of seniority that you get in, because objective is just to get your foot into the door. And two, being very proactive and creative. And three, being perseverant. Because for some people, it will not come immediately. So it's just a matter of staying focused, staying positive, staying faithful, and doing little step by little steps to get closer to your dream.
Thank you, Celine. Ben and then Mark, let's take a different angle. Let's suppose one is already in sports. So what does it take to do the next step? I mean, your case and Mark's case is of course one of those. What does it take to? It's probably continuing education. What do you suggest to those who are already working in a sports organization wants to make it like you guys made it?
And Ben, why don't you take that one first, and we'll come to you after, Mark.
I mean, it's a very interesting question. You're asking basically how once you've somehow job, how do you progress within that job or within the organization? I think maybe as Celine said, you somehow need to know what you want to do. You need to be highly focused. It's a highly competitive market. You know, everyone come and say, I would love to work for Nike and PUMA and the Olympics and FIFA. It's easy to say that. We all said that, but I think, you know, sport is different than it was 30 years ago. It's highly professional, and somehow you need to be specialized. You need to be focused, and you need to offer this little plus that your competitor will not. And so at the end of the day, if you know, some people are very happy with a 9 to 5 and they don't want to progress. They are happy in an organization. If it's a sport organization, they live out of their passion and they don't necessarily want to take on more responsibilities. I had that drive. I was happy to take on more responsibilities. I didn't have 6 kids and 5 dogs to take care of, and I had time and I had passion, so I worked for it. And I think at the end, it's really, as if you work with integrity, if you work with passion, and if you work hard, that's how you progress within an organization. I don't see any other recipe than just really hard work and you know, work with integrity and passion. Sounds sorry, it's a bit cheesy, but I don't see it any other way. Maybe Mark, you have a special recipe.
No, Ben and Celine, there isn't any substitute for hard work. And you know, when I told the story about getting started at Nike, that just got me in the door. And so, Claudio, to answer your question, I never worried about my next job. I just worried about doing what the job I had great. And I wanted to always make sure my boss, my clients trusted me, respected me, and they looked at me as like I was a partner. And in this sporting industry, people still like to deal with people, all right? And they want to deal with people they like and trust. So when you can be a true partner, whether it's inside your organization or outside your organization, that's when you become more valuable. And when people see that, wow, I can trust Celine and I can trust Ben, and I like working with them, and they're a partner with me, all of a sudden, new opportunities come your way. The reason I have a PUMA jacket on is because of just that. I wasn't looking to do anything else. I'm actually trying to retire. But out of the blue, I received a phone call from the North America CEO from PUMA, who had a phone call from the CEO of Foot Locker Inc. And they were talking and they said, hey, I need somebody, this is the PUMA gentleman talking, I need someone to run XYZ for me. Who do you know? And the gentleman at Foot Locker Inc. said, I got a guy, here's his number, call him. And next thing you know, my cell phone rings. And next thing you know, 2 months of conversations, new opportunity. And it's not that I was looking for it, but step by step, block by block, I built a reputation in the industry that was trusted, respected, and I was a partner. And that's where the networking comes in, and that's where you get your next opportunities. I mean, that's what I firmly believe. So hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really appreciate those answers from all of you. And I think it's important to stress, Ben, you were mentioning doing your work with integrity and working hard. Mark, obviously working hard and being trusted by all your partners and the people you work with. You're sending very similar messages. So I think it's going to be key to focus on that for anybody like myself in the relatively early stages of their sports career, looking to build on that. I'm going to transition a little and come back to you, Ben. So you have a pretty unique resume in this industry, maybe with your degrees and your background in the legal field, but generally, as far as I can tell, always within the world of sport. So I guess what drew you? You mentioned growing up in Lausanne, you're surrounded by it, but what drew you specifically to the legal field after your legal training? Or I'm sorry, to the sport world after your legal training, and how has your law background influenced your career and helped your career?
Gosh, I was hoping you wouldn't ask because it's a terrible story. I was never drawn to law. It's a friend who registered me at law school because he didn't want to go alone. Yes, back then I wanted to be in sports, but I didn't know how to do that. I applied at the IOC. I was 12 years old, and I just sent them a letter saying, "Can I work for you?" And I just received, of course, a negative answer. But just receiving the letter with the rings, you cannot imagine how happy I was. I put it on my wall. I was just so happy. They just said, "We cannot take you, but continue." And so yeah, that's how it happened. But yes, I fell into the law field by accident. I never wanted to be a lawyer, and so as soon as I started my legal studies, I found it very interesting, of course. But I immediately tried to find opportunities to connect law with sports. And by accident, I saw that there was a university in Switzerland that was offering sports law classes. And back then I needed a letter of recommendation from a law professor from my university. It was a different university. And I said, "I want to do sports law. Can you recommend me?" And the guy was like, "What is sports law? There is no way. This is not even law. This is not serious. I don't want to recommend you." And so I had to find another professor. And then I started the sports law. We were two in this class, 2 students. That was not that popular back then. I think it became more. And back then the professor was Denis Oswald, who is an IOC member. And I really literally fell in love with just that field. And I said, that's it. After the first lesson, I said, I'm going to specialize in sports law, and that's going to be my life. So I did everything around that and really specialized in sports law, sports governance, sports integrity. And that's somehow, I think, you ask me how the legal field can help. Obviously, it brings you a structure. It brings you this type of problem solving capability. You're seeing whether it's a divorce or a crime or anything that you study in law school, it does give you this ability to say, okay, I have a problem. How am I going to solve it? And how am I going to find a fair outcome? And I think this helps me somehow every day, although I don't do crimes or any type of divorce matters, but it does help me somehow in being structured, in trying to really, understand the basis, the foundation of our work. And somehow, whether we work for a commercial company or an international federation, you have a certain set of rules that you need to abide by, and that's very important. So that's how it helps me on a daily basis, although today, of course, I don't practice anymore, and I do miss it, I must say.
Great. Thank you. And Celine, this is one that I think you may be the only one who can have a direct answer for in this group, so I'm going to direct it at you. Obviously, between your work at AISTS and IMD, and even just looking at our participant, our guest list here, there are people watching this show right now who are from the Americas, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from all over the world. But they may be looking to get to the IOC, to get to FIFA, to get to Europe or maybe North America. And especially through COVID-19, securing those visas is exceedingly difficult in a country that you don't have a passport or an opportunity for a visa. How do you address that with your students who are maybe from outside of Europe and looking to stay in Europe when at AISTS or a story like that?
So the question is more for students that are already enrolled, for example, at AISTS and are looking to stay after their studies, for example, in Switzerland, or is it also addressing the people that are wherever right now in different geographies and they would like to change geographies?
Well, why don't we take them one at a time then? How about first for the students who have come to take the program at AISTS?
Okay. So for the one that have enrolled at AISTS, generally, well, first they have a 6 months extension after they graduate, which gives them the possibility to continue look for a job in Switzerland. So my advice to them is really, as we discussed previously, to make the most of these 6 months, to be open-minded, to continue build these relationships, to continue being helpful, to continue identifying what are their targets and how they can help. That's one thing. And then if really within the 6 months they haven't found anything, which for example in this year 2020, because of less opportunities, especially in events operations, I also advise them to look into other courses. Like for example, we have participants that enroll into some French courses with schools, and that way they get another student permit, which allow them to stay for another year, sometimes in Switzerland.
Sure. And then how about somebody who is not enrolled in the course or a course in Europe and is looking to, change their geography?
Well, there I would advise them to decide on which geography they want to go, and to really also identify why is geography making sense to them. As well, looking at also the languages that they speak or not, because if they can speak the language of the geography that they want to move to, that will obviously increase the employment opportunities after. That's one reflection, one of the reflection I would advise them to do. And then once they have done that, is look at the different courses that are available in their geographies of the target geography, and enroll into some classes there. That would be the easiest. If not, another way around is that they look for an employer in their geography that also is active in different geographies. Like PUMA, Nike, they have offices all over the world. So you could start in one office and then possibly get transferred to another office. That could also be a way to change geography.
Great, thank you. And actually, she just joined, so it kind of it was perfect timing. But Marlette Flores just joined, our former alumni committee president, and she is a very I don't know if it's unique or not. I suspect it's not all that unique, but interesting story. She came to AISTS with the hopes from Mexico, with the hopes of working for FIFA. That was the goal organization, but yeah, for a variety of reasons, mainly visa related, she went back to Mexico for years, I believe, and worked in the industry, and eventually found her way back, and is now working at FIFA in a great role and having a very interesting life in Zurich. So do you see that happening with others? Can it be a long process? That's an exceedingly long process for Marlette, but it all worked out for her through hard work.
Yes, I think you're bringing a good point, and I think it's very useful that you share the story from Marlette, because indeed, I think, again, because the sports industry is so competitive, see it as a journey. So in this journey, there are different steps, and sometimes you don't get to the end goals at the end, but it's just a destination. So enjoy the journey, and it can be different ways to get there. And one of the ways can be indeed to get some experience in your country or in another geography. Basically, objective is just to get some piece of the puzzles together that are going to increase your employability towards your bigger goal. And I think Ben wanted to add something.
Oh, please.
Yeah, because I don't know if in attendance there's some people looking for jobs, but maybe I can give you the perspective I'm facing at the moment as an employer, because we're having many positions open. We've recruited a lot, and as an organization based in Switzerland, since we're an international organization, I made it a point to recruit international people to reflect also who we are. And I'm seeing that it's pretty complicated with the visa process to really get people, especially outside Europe, from outside Europe. And what I'm seeing is for all those positions, communication, finance, all those support function, when we apply for a visa, if it's for an Indian, a Chinese, an Argentinian, the Swiss authorities will say, you have to prove to us that this person is special and that this is a position that cannot be occupied by a Swiss person. And that makes our job very difficult. We have to write letters of recommendation. We have to write somehow a letter motivating why that person is so special. And so for maybe people here who would be looking for jobs, you have to also find that special elements, and so that can be through languages, through, as Celine said, volunteering, your athletes experience, but you have to help us somehow not why you make a candidate that we cannot otherwise recruit next door somehow, and I'm seeing the process is pretty complicated for sure.
Yeah, Ben, we're having the same issues. So whoever the candidate is, how do you make yourself stand above the others? How do you cut through the noise? And what do you bring to the table that no one else locally can bring to the table? So it's some new levels of checkpoints that everyone needs to go through. But I do believe if you really want to move to a certain country or a certain company, you can build your strategy. And that old saying, fail to plan, plan to fail, is so true. So it just isn't going to happen on its own. So you have to do the extra to when you're talking to a Ben or a Celine or whoever, you stand out. And that is the most important thing that I look for when I hire. I look for someone who brings energy, who is engaged, who likes to listen and learn, right? Some people like to talk too much, but yeah, you're looking for that person who can lead. Leadership is so important, and there's so many different ways you can lead, but you have to be able to stand out amongst the crowd here. So I believe we're all saying the same thing here.
Which might be true at the end, and Mark. We have about 7 minutes before we get in questions from our friends in attendance. We talked before about those who want to enter the workforce. Let's briefly talk about those who already are in the workforce and, for example, they want to transition. So what's the recipe here? Is continuing education, is taking a sabbatical and study, doing another master course? What's the take in those who are in the middle of their career and they want to either improve or they want to change, or because that's another level of difficulty if you want to. Let's start with Mark maybe, and then Celine and Ben.
Sure, Claudio. I think right now, for everything we've learned through 2020 dealing with COVID, you've seen many people get caught up with COVID, with layoffs, and you've seen industries change dramatically. I think it doesn't matter if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, constantly educating yourself, looking at where the marketplace is going, whether it's through the world of digital, whether it's through the world of different types of way to support your business partners. I think constant education is going to be really, really important for everyone at all ages. And education could come from many areas. It could be, through universities. It could be volunteering in some local businesses, sitting on doing charity work. The more information you can get of what is going on in your marketplace, in your world, what is changing. People are changing every single day. Their buying habits are changing. Their social fun habits are changing. Staying engaged and learning how people are interacting and changing and evolving with everything that's going on in the world is critical. I just think staying engaged in your industry, whether it's reading the business reports, the journals, annual reports of companies, sitting in on tech innovation meetings, all that goes into the funnel that makes you better. So I think it never stops.
And hopefully attending Zoom chats like this one will.
And actually, that was the number one on my list. I just didn't get to it.
Well, we're on the same page here. Ben, any thoughts on that?
I think is it transitioning from a non-sporting organization to a sporting organization?
Well, no, let's say that probably, yeah, from sport. I mean, because that I guess is probably a triple mortal jump, from a non-sport to a sports middle age. I understand that. But suppose that you're already in sports and then you want to take that step forward.
Yeah, but I would, maybe not repeat what Mark said, but I think it's really knowing where you want to go. And the question is, why do you want to transition? Is it because you're not happy in your current position and you just think that the grass is greener elsewhere and you just want to transition? I think if you want to do a transition, you have to know why, and you have to be focused, and you have to really then bring something different to the table in your next job, saying why maybe your previous experience has brought you some skills that will create some value for your transition. I somehow made the transition from being a lawyer. I was heading FIBA's legal department, and then the Sochi Olympic Games happened, and the Russian doping scandal happened, and I was in touch with the World Anti-Doping Agency back then, and they just said, we're looking for a director of the European office. Is this something that would be of interest? And I thought about it. Is it a good time for me to stop being a lawyer and become really a manager heading an office? And then I decided to take the jump and do that transition. And I don't regret. So I think it's somehow you have to be focused, and you have to somehow see where you want to go. I mean, if it's just to change jobs, I wouldn't do it. I think if you really have to be, there needs to be something out there for you, and there needs to be a career path, I would say, for you. Yeah, so it doesn't help. I don't think I'm giving any advice, but there's a lot of people who say, I'd love to, I'm not happy in my job, let's change job. You have to understand why you do that, and it may not be better in the next job. I think it needs a vision, I would say, and you need to make sure that it's going to make you happier somehow.
Thank you. Yes, Celine.
Please, Celine, yes.
So I totally agree with these 2 points that Mark and Ben just said. I think they're very, very key. And why you want to move or why you want to make a transition is also valid at the very beginning of the process. If you want to work in sports, is why you want to work in sports. To add on to these 2 points about constant education and why you want to think that this vision, I think it can also be very important, because I see it's a common mistake that I see with people that I counsel or consult, advice, is that they forget about nurturing the relationship with people they've met throughout their career. So that would be another thing that I would advise to people that are already in a career, is remember to nurture the relationship with the people that they've met throughout their career, so that they don't just reach out to people when they need the people. So do it on a regular basis, and do it in a genuine way is also very important. And then a very, very practical tip from the job stress perspective is keep your CV up to date. So have a kind of a working document on which you regularly write all the different achievements that you've gathered, because when, for whatever reason, you lose your job or you want to start looking for a job, if you don't have this document ready and you have to rethink it all from the beginning, you might forget about some of the things that you've done. So keep a working document with all what you've kind of problems that you've solved.
Great, thank you. And
if I may also,
oh, please, yes.
Please, Ben.
No, sorry, but if I may, because since I think also I would tend to remember that the sports market is still a small market somehow in the bigger scheme of things, and to also remember that, and it goes back to being focused. But sometimes I've seen also now over the past 10 years that I've been recruiting, I've seen people who are not happy in their job and were looking at doing that transition, but they started applying for every job. And that I don't think it's serving the purpose, because I've received someone who said, I've seen that you're opening an event manager position, I want to apply, and the guy was not selected. And 3 months later, I'm opening an education position and he applies. And then, so every time in the motivation letter, the guy is telling you why he's the perfect fit for an event manager, and 2 months later he's the perfect fit for a commercial. And so I think I would be careful also with that, and that goes back to really knowing what you want to do, because today sports organizations, they're extremely professional and they're looking for highly skilled professional. They're not, the Swiss knife is nice, but I think we've passed that stage, and we're looking really for really, special skills. And so I think you need to nurture, as much as you need to nurture your network, you need to nurture your skills, and really, leverage that, and not try to, go all over the place just because you like the organization. I think it's not serving the purpose. That would be my advice.
Great, thank you all. And just to let everyone know, it is now, we have 15 minutes remaining, so it is time for the audience to chime in with any questions you may have. We have one hand raised, and it's from Rajul Sharda, who every month, this is, we love having you, buddy. So if you wouldn't mind turning that camera on and asking away, please.
Hello.
How are you? You're always with us.
Just trying to be relevant. So good evening, everyone. So my question is for Ben and Mark. What career accomplishments are you most proud of?
Why don't we start with Mark, please?
Oh, gee, thanks. You know what? I kind of mentioned the story a little bit earlier. 32 years at Nike, and then a few years with ASICS, and now a few years with PUMA. And just are you talking about business-wise or personal career-wise? Just to clarify.
I think personal point of view, that gives you like motivation to continue. You mean something that made you feel really happy from within inside?
Yeah, there's so many, but maybe the one I mentioned earlier, when I received a phone call out of the blue from the North America CEO of PUMA, and to talk about the current role I'm in, and I had to I'll tell the story. In the negotiations, I had to sign an NDA, right? So we had to keep everything on the down low, right? And I'm in New York City. I'm having dinner with the CEO of Foot Locker Inc., right? We're having dinner. And I'm in my other job, and we're just having a conversation. And we're sitting there at the bar having a drink, and he leans over to me and just looks at me, goes, "You taking the job?" "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Who do you think gave him your phone number?" And I said, "Well, I signed an NDA." And he said, "Who do you think gave him your phone number?" So that little story, we ended up having dinner that night. The next day, I'm thinking, all these years, day by day, week after week, month after month, at the end of, as you put all that work in, that was so satisfying that one of the most influential people in the industry thought of me first to give my name and number to a CEO of a company. And I just said, you know what? I never thought this day would ever happen. I never thought that, oh my gosh, I need to do these 75 things to get there. It was just a culmination of working hard, building trust, respecting people, and being a good partner. And I'm like, okay, that's what it's all about. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that day I had a smile on my face.
No, you did. Thank you.
I have to be humble. I'm 36 years old. I don't think I can speak about the proudest moment as if I made my career. I think it's to be here with you guys today, to be honest, and somehow be invited to share how to make a career in sports. That somehow means that I've made a career in sports. I'm happy to be here, to be director general of an important for sports, an international organization that was established by the Olympic movement in such a difficult and critical time for the Olympic movement, to be working for the integrity of sport, for clean sport, for the athletes. It makes me proud. I didn't receive any favor from anybody. I didn't have any shortcut. I worked hard, and as Mark said, being a good partner, being true to yourself, being passionate, that makes me happy and proud to be here, and to be a young manager, and hopefully it's just the start of my career. So I'm just proud and happy to be here. But that's also part of sports. I think we have to be humble and continue to work hard. If you start cherishing your successes, I think that's when you start losing it. So the work just begins.
Great, thank you very much. And Rajul, thank you again for the question. As always, I'm not gonna play favorites here, but we love having you. There are no other hands raised right now, so I'll jump back in. And please, anybody in the audience, if you don't want to come on camera, maybe feel free to type a question into the chat box. You know what? And as I'm saying that, we have another hand raised. So Pietro, please, camera and mic, and please ask your question.
Hello. So I was wondering, since Mark was talking about, how important is education during these days, is how he feels about education, how it changed, like the importance of education in time, because he started to work at Nike in '83, and right now, how it changed. How important. I mean. In my experience, back in the days, as you said earlier, it used to, I guess, mean a little bit less than what it is now. Then I feel that a lot of people are, have a lot of education for even just internships and stuff like that. I'm not sure if the answer is clear.
Yeah, well, as we were talking earlier, education is critically important at all levels, right? Whether it's your college degree or your master's degree or continuing education once you get into the industry. So, I always say to my teams that it's like, listen, if I don't learn something new every single day, then I'm not getting better every single day. So every day is an educational process, but from pure academic education, yes, it never hurts to have that really good foundation and background. But I will say this, and my industry may be different from Celine and Ben's, but I've interviewed and hired many people over the years. And Ben, you're 36, 37 years old. So I was doing this before you were even born. So so I've been doing this a long time. So over all the years of hiring people, and I've had resumes with some of the greatest universities and global educations and regional educations. At the end of the day, did that person bring me that engagement, the energy, can I trust that person? And I always believe that once I felt good there, their educational background is yes, it's important, but in sales and in marketing, it's such a customer facing relationship. You can't sit there and say, oh, this question came up, I have to go to this book in this chapter in this paragraph to find the answer. So I think it's a little bit of a combination of art and science. There's that education and then there's that engagement. So I think the balance is critical. So I don't think there's just one right way. And I don't know if I'm answering your question, but from my perspective, that the balance is critical.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, so thank you very much. You did.
Sorry, we have one question is 5 minutes to go. We would like to give the Juan Carrillo, who is always with us as well. He's asking, what's the best way to highlight your experience from other industry that can be transferred and add value to the sports industry? What we were probably talking before earlier on, Ben. I mean, how can you transfer your talent from an industry to the sports one? You want to answer that, and maybe briefly, all of you in these 5 minutes remaining?
I'm not sure. If I understood correctly, the question is how really can you leverage the skills that you have acquired from a previous
Correct.
sector to the sports sector?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, again, I think it really depends where you're applying and where you want to apply this skill. But I see it in anti-doping. In anti-doping, it goes from legal, education, medical, science, technology. So I think all of them are really extremely interesting for me at the moment as I'm recruiting new staff and building up this organization. So I have, believe it or not, I have investigators, I have mathematicians, I have biologists, I have educators, and so all of those skills can be relevant. It's just how you're selling it. And that's really literally what Mark's just said. You can have 5 PhDs, but not being able to make a presentation. So you're not going to be of use to any organization with 7 degrees or 8 degrees. It's what you have done really next to those degrees and around those degrees, and how you can really use the skills you have to a sector that I think works through passion and different types of skill set than just being, I guess, in a bank and trying to, you know, make statistics. It's also what's behind all of that. And so it's interesting because we have now 2 mathematicians. They come from the PFL or polytechnical schools, and you know they were doing algorithm all days, and now they have to do algorithms but for anti-doping, and they just like running, and suddenly it becomes fun for them, and they see really what's behind. And so somehow it's trying to, you know, use your skill to something that makes you passionate of. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good combination. I don't want 5 PhDs in my organization. I want people who you can trust and who bring energy and who bring something different.
Maybe Mark, and then we leave the last word to Celine.
Sure. As Ben was saying, I've been in sports my whole life. I love sports. And like I grew up at 32 years at Nike, and my homework every day was to watch ESPN and read the box scores, right? And who won World Cup and who won Wimbledon, right? My advice is simply this: follow your passion. This is not a job. I'm still doing this. This is not a job. This is my passion. Like I can't, like, who signed the newest contract? The Buffalo Bills are going to beat Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. That's my passion. That's also what I do for, you know, for business. What's your passion? Find it, follow it, and give it time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. Build your plan and just be a partner and be respectful and work hard and trust the process, but follow your passion. Don't sell yourself short.
Celine, you have the last word.
Well, I think following the passion is what what makes me passionate about what I'm doing as a career coach and as a coach in general, to really help people dare to follow their passion. So I can only encourage people to do what Mark just said. And besides following your passion, then it's also making a plan towards that. So it's also identifying, and that connects back to the question of Juan about how you best highlight your transferable skills. It's one thing to know what is your passion. It's also important to know what is your target then looking for. What are the skills needed? Because then when you have this understanding, you can use your passion and your energy and bring up the right skills, highlight the skills that are relevant to your target. And this mix is going to make you progress and get closer to your goal progressively, to your dream and to your passion, so that you don't have the feeling of working not even one single day.
Great. Well, that is perfect timing. Celine, you are right on the hour here. So well done to everybody. That we've come close, but that's never happened before. So I just want to thank you, Mark, Celine, and Ben. We loved having you. I'm sure it was very informative for me, somebody who's still early on in this career, and I'm sure it was for everybody who joined and everybody who will watch on YouTube and the other channels in the future. So thank you all very much.
And happy holidays.